Okay, this thing is on. I have not released a Monster Kid Writer video in several months. It's been quite a while. I actually migrated the Monster Kid Writer content from its own YouTube channel over here to the Team Death YouTube channel. This is the new home for Monster Kid Writer because, well, I'm a Monster Kid Writer, but I'm also part of Team Death. My name's Derek M. Cook, and Monster Kid Writer is where I talk about writing. Go figure. Now, in previous videos, I've talked a little bit about the origin of Monster Kid Writer, and I'll do some more origin of videos down the line, kind of breaking down the logo or the placard or the image that I use for certain Monster Kid Writer projects. Monster Kid Writer, that's who I am, that's what we're going to talk about here. And lately, I've been struggling a little bit on the writing front. Not necessarily in a bad way, I've just been really busy. Went and got married, and getting ready for the wedding, and getting married, and moving into a new home with my wife has been time-consuming. Plus, started working a day job, had to bring in a few dollars on the regular, so been doing that as well. But I've recently restarted the writing journey that has been necessarily, for better or worse, put on hold. That doesn't mean that I haven't been creating. I've been thinking a lot, but it doesn't really count if I just keep it up in here. I've got to actually write it down if I'm going to call myself a writer. One thing that I've been trying to do is getting up early, typically before my wife gets out of bed, and writing for at least an hour. And that's been a process. Lately, I've been working on some short stories. Some of you may know about Mark Temple. Mark Temple is a character of mine, a creation of mine, that's been floating around in various stories for several years. There's even a Mark Temple collection that you can buy on Amazon right now. I'll make sure there's a link somewhere here on the screen, as well as down below in the YouTube video description, right below where you're supposed to like and subscribe. I'll make sure there's a link there if you are interested in picking up Mark Temple's first collection of short stories. I'm working on a second. I've been working on a second for a very, very long time. In fact, I started writing a particular Mark Temple story several years ago. Started writing it when I was down in Arizona visiting my mother, and the words were flowing, man. Created a new character that's part of the Mark Temple universe or world, and was having a great time, and then stopped. Partly because I got stuck, partly because I was down visiting my mother down in Arizona, and I had other things going on at the time, and just starting a brand new writing project while I'm away from home, doing other things. Yeah, it's not really the best way for me to create that way if it's not something that I've already set aside and planned to do while I'm away. So that story, which has a number of different working titles, I'm not even going to bother you with them right now because none of them make sense at this point, just stalled out. But I love the character that I created to hang out and work with Mark in this particular piece as a character that I wouldn't mind exploring down the line as well. You know, I had to make the decision though to let that story go, or at least go back into the digital trunk. I've got the most recent, the best version of the first 2/3 of this short story saved on my hard drive right now. I'll probably get back to it someday, but in the meantime, I just kept banging my head against the story and I couldn't get any further. And, you know, as an indie author, it's frustrating because I feel like I'm beholden to myself in terms of like who I need to write for in order to produce and be successful and maybe even profitable as an author. I don't know. Bottom line is, I had to put the story aside, and, you know, on the plus side, Mark Temple is such a vibrant character in my head. He's got other stories to tell me, and therefore I have more stories to tell you. I guess what I'm getting at here is just, if you're an author and you're working on something and it's not working out, it's okay to set it aside. It's okay to put it onto a hard drive somewhere, or even print it up and set it aside somewhere. Just let it kind of gestate and marinate in your brain a little bit. I have no doubt that at some point, this short story that I got 2/3 of the way through is finally going to see completion and will be finished. I have no doubt that that character that's working with Mark Temple is going to come knocking on the door of my brain and say, hey, what about me, and why don't you do this? I'm sure that'll happen, but in the meantime, I've moved on to a new Mark Temple story, and I'm pretty excited about how that one's turning out. Granted, I was excited about this one when I first started working on it years ago when I was down in Arizona, but, you know, we'll see if this one works out a little bit better. I'm excited about it nonetheless, and there's a new character, a brand new guy that's working with Mark in this piece, and I'm finding that I'm really enjoying creating these new characters to live in the world of Mark Temple, which admittedly is kind of a messed up world. I mean, if you have to hire somebody to deal with a werewolf or vampire problem, like there's some sort of exterminator, well, maybe it's not a great place to live, but it's a great place to write about. As I mentioned earlier, you can like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It would really help me out. It would help out Team Death, and it would help out Monster Kid Writer. It would let me know that this is the kind of content that you want to see. I want to talk more about my writing journey, and in the future, I'm going to break down how I wrote a superhero novel in about a month. Yeah, that happened. It was crazy. It was successful. I finished it. And I'll tell you all about it next time here on Monster Kid Writer.